Hey, we're here with Bruce Katz, keyboard master extraordinaire, and we're particularly happy to have you do this interview with Rock Roots and Blues Live, since you've played with so many high-profile roots, blues, and rock performers.
I've been around.
We're here at Lucille's at the B.B. King's Blues Club on 42nd Street in Times Square, the crossroads of the universe.
I guess so.
So, Bruce, I used to listen to these syndicated blues shows on public radio, like Harlem Hit Parade. I think that was on around the mid '80s, and Blues Stage, and Beale Street Caravan. And it was the only way I used to get to hear and get to know who was playing contemporary blues. So I used to record the shows on my cassette deck, and each broadcast was like a new album for me. And they would give you a little background on the artist, and sometimes they would include interviews with the artist. And that's how I became familiar with a lot of artists at the time. So one show, I'm hearing this guy named Mighty Sam McLean for the first time. I had no idea who he was. This must have been around 1990, I think, 91, something like that.
I think we made the first Mighty Sam record around 92.
Okay.
Actually.
It wouldn't have been a live performance on the radio before then?
Not before that.
Okay.
No, not with me, anyway.
Okay, no, well, this was definitely with you.
Yeah, Mighty Sam was one great singer, boy.
Wow, and I'm hearing this amazing high-energy Hammond B3 solo in the middle of a song. And at the end of the solo, Sam is shouting, "Bruce Katz, that's Bruce Katz on the B3." And I'm saying to myself, Bruce Katz? Wow, who the hell is this guy, Bruce Katz? And that was the first time I heard you play. So, can you tell me a little bit about your experience with Mighty Sam McLean?
Mighty Sam. Well, you know, I had formed my own band around 1991 or 1990, and the drummer in my band, Lauren Entris, who actually currently plays with Ronnie Earl, he knew of Mighty Sam McLean, and at that time, Mighty Sam was almost living on the street down in New Orleans, really down on his luck. And Lauren decided he was going to get in touch. He was so impressed with Mighty Sam and his singing. He found Mighty Sam. He brought him to Connecticut. He put him up in his own house for about 6 months. We got him a record deal with Audio Quest, and my band at the time basically backed up Sam for his first album, which was called I can't think of the name.
But this was his first album?
Well, no. It was his first album in a long time.
Okay.
He had albums in the late 60s and early 70s. Okay. He had like minor hits. He had covered a Patsy Cline tune, and he was one of these soul singers in the early 70s, and then he just kind of, due to various misfortunes, his career went down, and this was the resurrection of Sam's career, and so we became his backup band, and we recorded that first record with him, which is an amazing record. And I know the first time that Sam came to Boston and we met him, we were at a practice room at Berklee College of Music, and I sort of knew about Sam, but we're in there, me and Kevin Barry and Lauren Entris, and Sam walks in and he starts singing, and our mouths were just like, I mean, just an incredible singer, just amazing. So I was never really in Sam's band very much. I did his first 6 records when I say his first six, his six that he made after his comeback.
Right.
And I did some shows with him. And what a singer, I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
I wrote a tune with him that I did on one of my albums called "Hanging on the Cross,"
which you're still doing now in your set.
Which we're still
right?
doing now. Yeah,
it's an awesome song.
Yeah, it's a great song.
Yeah.
And Sam is something.
Well, thanks to those old syndicated shows, I got to hear you for the first time, and I got to know who Mighty Sam McLean was. I had never ever heard of this guy before. So the list of people that you've played with is so long. So let me just ask you about a few of them.
Okay.
But first, is it true that when you started out as a professional, you played bass for Big Mama Thornton?
I did play bass for Big Mama Thornton, yes.
Can you give me a brief...
well, I grew up playing piano and also string bass in like high school orchestras, and then I picked up electric bass, and when I was in rock bands, I would double on piano and bass a lot of times, and I loved playing bass. And then I just concentrated on piano. And then around 1982, I got the opportunity to play with Big Mama Thornton, and she needed a bass player, and I dusted off my bass and did a few tours with her.
How was
I was
that
in the East Coast band. It was really fabulous.
That's like a throwback to another era.
Yeah, I mean, she was really soulful. She had her problems. And we would try to keep her sober, and when she was sober, she was great. And when she was great even if she wasn't, but sometimes things could go a little weird. Yeah, it was amazing, and I loved playing bass with her. I love playing bass, I just never do it anymore.
Yeah, I'd like to hear you play bass.
I was a good blues bass player.
Well, you actually do play bass, but on the keyboard while you're doing all these other crazy things.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a thing. I'm a real bass player, and so when I'm playing organ and I'm playing bass, I understand bass, and I can think like a bass player. I think a lot of times keyboard players that are doing bass, they're approaching it in this weird kind of way. They don't actually know what it's like to play the bass. So it has helped me quite a bit with my band now that I'm doing it as an organ trio and I'm doing bass on the organ, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I can think like you're supposed to think. You know, it's all about groove and simplicity.
I'm always amazed when I see you or any other B3 player playing the bass while they're carrying all this other melodies and everything else going on. It must take some practice to get to do that.
Yeah, I don't know. Just divide your brain up in a different kind of way, I guess.
Yeah. So one of the other people I want to ask you about that you've played with is Ronnie Earl. I think you did 6 records with Ronnie, and could you just tell me a little bit about the whole experience playing with Ronnie Earl?
Well,
I think that was in the mid-'90s?
Early and mid-'90s, yeah. 6.5 years with Ronnie and 6 albums. That was a great experience. I mean, I don't know if there's a better blues guitarist of that generation than Ronnie Earl. The excitement and energy and intensity, you know, he and I were well suited for each other, I think. But I learned a lot about playing slow blues from Ronnie Earl, because he'd play a 17-minute slow blues and not even blink. But yeah, it was. I learned a lot. I was already pretty much into playing blues, but with Ronnie it was just deeper and deeper. And you know, I see these videos that are out there online, and I enjoy watching. I mean, I'm like a big fan of Ronnie Earl's, you know.
Yeah, I was just watching the live in Germany video.
Pretty good stuff.
Yeah, it's just off the charts.
Like
unbelievable.
We just blew the roof off the places night after night, because, as you know, I play with a fair amount of energy, and Ronnie is, you know, and the two of us used to levitate buildings, you know.
So why did you leave Ronnie Earl, to do your own thing?
Yeah, kind of. It had gotten to that point. I had done 2 CDs, and I was doing my own gigs in between Ronnie gigs, and then I got the opportunity to do my 3rd CD in 1997 called Mississippi Moan, and I realized it was sort of now or never. Either I was going to start touring and really doing my thing, or I was going to keep being Ronnie Earl's piano player, which was a very good thing to be, but not have my own career. And it was time to do that, and I couldn't do both.
Okay.
Because it wasn't like with Ronnie, you're not going to send a sub in. Either you're in that band or you're not in that band.
Right. By the way, I just saw him a couple of weeks ago here in B.B. King's, and he still sounds totally incredible. Very soulful and just amazing. So one of the other people I want to ask you about is Greg Allman. You've played with him, I think, from 2007 to 2013?
Yes, I did.
So could you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Well, you know, I've had these experiences of playing with these legendary type people, and you know, that voice, you know, playing some of those songs with Greg singing, I don't know what to say about it. It was a very cool experience. Greg's a great guy, and I loved the band. Jerry Jamot was the bass player, the guy that was with King Curtis and Aretha, and you know, and it was a different kind of experience. I mean, getting into the whole Allman Brother thing. You know, my audition for Greg was just walking on stage at the Beacon Theater and sitting in with the Allman Brothers, unannounced, unprepared, on everything. Just come down to the Beacon and you'll sit in with us and I'll hear you. And so I sat down and played right there.
Sounds crazy to me that they did things like that, because I know that's how Scott auditioned, Scott Sherrard, the guitarist, the audition for Greg. It's just wild.
Well, Greg takes things as they go, you know. It's like, I mean, the worst that could happen would be that I sucked and they had a bad moment but yeah, you know, I mean, he's kind of casual in that way.
That's kind of cool. So you taught at Berklee College of Music for quite a number of years also. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I went there in the late 70s and as a student, and then I wasn't involved with Berklee for about 18 years, and then I came back and taught, and I really loved teaching there. There's an amazing amount of talented people, and it's a very intense place, and I taught harmony and private lessons and a Hammond organ ensemble and blues history course that I created for the school. And, you know, I learned from the students quite a bit, you know, just interacting with that many extremely talented 20-year-olds. I loved that gig, but then I moved to the Catskills, and I just wanted to move there. And for 5 years I commuted to Boston from Woodstock, and I just couldn't keep that commute going. I was traveling on the road all the time playing, and then when I wasn't traveling on the road, I'd be running to Boston and doing my classes, and it was like too much.
Were they doing anything with the blues before you started doing stuff there?
Not really, no. It's a jazz. Its roots are a jazz school, but it's expanded. You know, they do music therapy and film scoring and production and engineering and stuff. But yeah, blues would get kind of the short end of the stick there. A lot of people, they don't understand it. You know, they think it's this simple form that's beneath them or something, and I wouldn't hire them for a gig because they don't know how to play the music. There were only a handful of people really there. Myself, Dave Lamina, who currently plays with Ronnie Earl, Mike Williams, just a handful of people. I had to really fight to create this blues history class because their attitude was like, well, how can you have a whole course on blues history? You know, it's like 3 chords or something. So yeah, it's better now, but it's still vast majority are either jazz or sort of industry type people there.
But you did something innovative there and opened up a whole new.
You know, the students who were interested in roots and Hammond and blues would come to me or a few other teachers there, and we had to fight for respect.
Yeah, all right. So I just wanted to mention a few other people that I know you occasionally play with, and like that's Delbert McClinton.
Yeah.
And
Well,
John.
I played regularly with Delbert for about 3 years, and I love Delbert.
I saw he's playing here sometime soon. Are you still playing with him?
Not really, just very occasional subbing. For a few years, I was a regular member of his band, even though I was up here.
Oh,
Oh no!
what happened to the lights?
They're going for the atmosphere. Are we okay?
We got it.
Okay. His whole band are Nashville people, and he's in Nashville, and he really liked me. So for a few years after his regular guy that had been with him for 15 years left, he flew me around, and I would meet up with them and get in the bus and do tours. Then his regular guy who had been with him for 15 years came back, and he's in Nashville, so I'm just an occasional sub.
Okay. You occasionally play with John Hammond and
John Hammond, yeah, who I've known for about 15 years or so. I'm on his last CD that he did with a band. He's on my new CD.
Okay.
And we do occasional gigs. I'm headlining with him in July as a duo at the North Atlantic Blues Festival.
Oh,
in Maine.
great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
July 16th. But yeah, I mean, John, he's about, it's just so deep, you know. John is, I love John. As a person and as a musician, it's just incredible, actually.
And just a few other people I wanted to mention, you still do play with J-Mo's jazz bands?
Once in a while.
Once in a while, and you occasionally...
I'm playing a lot with Butch Trucks.
Well, I'm going to get to Butch. And occasionally you play with the CKS band.
Which is on hiatus.
Yeah.
We're officially on hiatus because we're all really busy and our orbits are not intersecting very well. Scott's playing with Greg. Randy Sherlanti has his band called The Wait, which is all ex-Levon people doing kind of a Levon the Band tribute.
Right.
And myself, and so we haven't done a gig in about a year, and we're just officially putting it on the shelf until someday. That's a great band, and I love those guys, but we don't want to do a gig every 6 months and not rehearse and, you know.
Okay. So you have been just recently touring with Butch Trucks and the Freight Train Band.
Right. And Les Brer also.
Yes, so Les Brer, that's something that's coming up, I think, at the end of this month. You're playing in Macon?
In a few weeks, we are getting together to rehearse for 4 days, which will be great because we've never rehearsed, and do 2 shows at the Cox Theater in Macon, and that's kind of the Allman Brothers Band, kind of, you know, O'Teal, Mark, J-Mo, and Butch, and Jack Pearson, and Pat Bergson, and myself, and Lamar Williams.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's a strong band.
So this is...
and we're going to do 1E and the Peach also.
Okay.
And the Freight Train Band is doing a lot of tours. I mean, we just finished a couple of tours. We're going to do a 3-week tour in April, and then we're going back out in July, and that's a really fun band with Damon Fowler and Valor Trucks and Barry Oakley Jr. and myself and Heather Gillis, and it's a great vibe, and it's really fun. It's great material.
Cool. I've seen a few of the shows.
Yeah,
and,
it's fun.
So let's talk about the Bruce Katz Band.
Hey, that's a good idea. Well, I've been plugging away for about 24 years with that band. My first album came out in '92, and I have 7 out. Actually, I was just at the record company today discussing we're recording a new one at the end of May, I think it's a great band. We do mostly my own stuff. It used to be all instrumental, but now it's about half and half vocal and instrumental. And, you know, it's a band that takes a broad view of the universe. You know, we incorporate a lot of styles into one broadly called blues. You'd call it blues, but there's a lot of different stuff going on. Just
pretty much every style.
Yeah, well, a lot of styles. No.
And you mix them up.
Yeah, well, I mean, I am who I am, and I like what I like, and I don't really see that things have to be so stylized or pure the way that, the music business wants, just like, back in the day when there used to be record stores. Well, does it go in the blues, or does it go in the jazz, or does it go in the rock? And you confuse people sometimes if you're mixing genres, but my goal with that band was definitely a blues feeling throughout, but it could go anywhere from avant-garde to anything, But I'm always looking for the essential inner blues feeling with everything that we do, and so to me, that's always there, and that's what I want to be there, and then I will let my influences and my ideas, run.
The latest CD is called Homecoming?
It's called Homecoming, yeah.
You mentioned John Hammond's on a couple of cuts?
Yep, and Jimmy Bennett and Peter Bennett from Alexis P. Suter's band, and my old buddy Marty Ballou, who was on my first album and who these days plays with Peter Wolf, among other people.
Okay.
And my usual players, Ralph Rosen on drums and Chris Fiorello on guitar and vocals.
All right.
Yeah.
So lastly, let me just ask you, I know you just came out with an instructional DVD called Breakthrough Blues Piano?
Breakthrough Blues Piano, yeah.
You want to talk about that just for a second?
Sure. It's something that I always wanted to do, and then I was approached by Steve Nixon, who has this company, and I went to Chicago and did it, and I was really happy with the way it came out. I mean, I didn't know what it would be like, but he can really produce this stuff, and I mean, most of it is I'm talking and you can see my hands.
Okay.
Except there's graphics while I'm talking, and there's all this stuff, and there's transcriptions.
Did it draw upon any of your teachings from Berkeley?
Oh yeah, very much. I mean, it's a lot of ideas that I have about playing blues piano, and I think I could make a 12-hour DVD. This is a 2-hour DVD, and I kind of decided I would get a certain program going and gear it in certain ways, but I touched down on a lot of things and things that I think are important. I don't think licks or chops are important. I think it's about the sounds and the rhythms and the feels is what makes blues sound like blues, and then other stuff's great. I would teach at Berkeley, and sometimes I'd have these students that could sit down and play super complex Keith Jarrett, McCoy Tyner, or classical music where they had monster chops, and then they couldn't swing or shuffle a blues, and I would ignore all the chops and just go for the feeling of it and try to get them to feel that, and then go back to all the hot licks and stuff. But yeah, so the DVD, I'm happy.
So where can people find out how to get that? At your website?
There's a link at my website, but I think the website is freejazzlessons.com.
Okay.
That's the website of the company. There are some free jazz lessons, but obviously there are non-free jazz lessons.
All right. Listen, Bruce, thanks a lot for sitting down and talking with me, and I'm looking forward to the set tonight here at Lucille's.
All right. Thanks, Tom.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
All right.